In the region of Salzkammergut in Upper Austria lies the little town of Hallstatt. Situated on the banks of the lake of the same name, it is surrounded by the breathtaking landscape of the Dachstein Massif. The alpine region of Hallstatt-Dachstein-Salzkammergut is an extraordinary example of an exceptionally beautiful natural landscape of particular scientific importance, which bears witness to past activity on a human, economic, and cultural level. The mighty mountains around Hallstatt are riddled with geological oddities such as lakes, caverns, and caves, including the Giant Ice Cave, Mammoth Cave, and the Kappenbrüller Cave. Dotted with lovely homes with elaborate timbered decorations, Hallstatt and its environments are one of the last bastions of traditional Austrian customs. The protected houses at the foot of the Salzberg, or Salt Mount, are proof of the mining community that once inhabited this area. The town's museum houses invaluable evidence from Hallstatt's history. Founded 150 years ago by Professor Friedrich Simony, the Hallstatt World Cultural Heritage Museum covers 7,000 years of the region's history. Through a fascinating voyage back in time, the visitor learns about the history of the salt mine village of Hallstatt, from the beginning of human history to the modern era, when the Hallstatt region was designated a World Heritage of Humanity. The museum's exhibits trace the line from the earliest settlers of the region, from the Illers, Celts, and Romans, to important salt traders and common people. Numerous archaeological findings from Hallstatt's ancient burial ground are on display, while various features of its civilization such as religion and everyday life are carefully described through words and artifacts. The Hallstatt Museum also includes other exhibits devoted to presenting the region's impressive history and development, including geology, prehistory, the Celtic and Roman eras, the Middle Ages and modern period, culture, health and religion, work and handicrafts, coinage, craftwork, burial ground, habitat, nature, and salt mining. The museum, once a cowshed, was inaugurated in 1990. An annex was constructed between 1999 and 2003, extending the building's capacities. Today, this picturesque village with its 1,000 inhabitants is a popular holiday resort. Tourists visit this small village for its ancient marketplace, a protected historical site surrounded by wooden houses, some of which have clung to the rock face for over 500 years. The Evangelical Lutheran Church, which dates to 1859, rises on the shores of the lake. Its impressive spire was completed in 1862. Since 1628, the lake has maintained an annual tradition, the Corpus Christi boat procession. A stroll through the narrow winding alleys between the houses and the lake leads to the upper part of the town. A steep stairway leads to the Church of Maria am Berg. Its dominant position offers a spectacular view over the lake and surrounding mountains. This small Romanesque church is a beautiful gem in the midst of this World Cultural Heritage Village. Originally dating from 1181, the church's sturdy tower and its unusual tower with a pagoda-style roof date from its earliest incarnation. Its late Gothic frescoes cover the facade facing the lake. Inside, the legendary building is full of remarkable sacred works, including 2 precious winged altarpieces from the late Gothic period. The church's most important piece of artwork is the famous Gothic 3-piece altar by Master Leonhard Astle. One part of the altar shows scenes from the life of Jesus, while the interior shows the nativity scene and the visit of the three kings. Beside it stands a second altar, perhaps less renowned, but nonetheless beautiful. The choir is adorned with portraits of the sacred apostles. Behind the church lies the cemetery. According to tradition, family graves are not allowed in the cemetery. After 10 years, a grave can be occupied by a new corpse. The characteristic Beinhaus, or House of Bones, with its more than 1,200 hand-painted skulls, is located near the cemetery. The tradition of painting skulls dates to 1720. Skulls were cleaned and exposed to the sun until they turned ivory, and then painted with floral crowns. An embossed window on the ground floor of the two-storied chapel from the 12th century shows a priceless glass painting from the Gothic era of the Archangel Michael with his scales to weigh the soul. The altar at the back originates from a former hospital chapel in the lawn. Upon leaving the church, one comes upon a street dedicated to Friedrich Morton, one of Hallstatt's pioneers. Three men have had a great influence on Hallstatt and its museum: Friedrich Morton, Friedrich Siemens, and Isidor Franz Engel. Friedrich Morton was curator of the museum and organized many excavations. His many publications helped maintain experts' continuing interest in the area. The departure point for the cable railway lies outside the town center. The Hallstatt Upper Valley, which stands at 838 meters in elevation, is reached after an easy and safe 3-minute ride on the salt mine funicular. The historic Rudolfsturm Tower was once a fortification built to defend the mining area against invaders and served as the home of the mine's manager. The path begins at the plaque honoring Johann Georg Ramsauer, the man who discovered the Hallstatt cemetery. Human bones and numerous prehistoric artifacts came to light during the archaeological excavations carried out in this area, excavations which continue to this day. Along the route stands a chapel dedicated to St. Barbara, the patron saint of miners, along with a few houses, and the place where salted products were made. The shelter, which originally offered lodging to miners, has become the reception area for visitors before descending into the underground mines. The mine is entered through Christina Stollen Tunnel, named in honor of Empress Maria Theresa's mother. The first part of the route through the mountain is the salt crystal room. The mine boasts a natural ventilation system which maintains a constant temperature inside the caves. The first wooden slide used by the miners leads straight into the room where salt was handled, called the Edelsberg, or the salt crystal room. The mine creates a sort of vortex in time, taking people 7,000 years into the past, to the beginning of the extraction of rock salt in Hallstatt. At the end of the Paleozoic age, 250 million years ago, the salt lakes no longer had any outlet into the open sea. As the water evaporated in the sun, it left deposits of salt and other components. On the second wooden slide, the longest in Europe, it's a quick ride to the Hornover Combe and the large underground salt lake. Until the beginning of the Middle Ages, salt was extracted from the rock in blocks of rock salt. After that, it was extracted by means of water. The mine currently produces 800,000 tons of salt, and 48 miners still work there. The voice of Sepp the miner tells the story how the body of a man was discovered perfectly preserved in salt. The story is confirmed by a document dating to April 2nd, 1734. It seems the man died following a landslide in 600 BC. The man was buried in unconsecrated ground and subsequently forgotten. These images show life and work during the initial golden period of salt extraction in Hallstatt, in the Bronze Age, around the 12th century BC. The train takes visitors through the Maria Teresa tunnel outside the mine, where the tour continues in the direction of the Dachstein Massif. More than 30 million years ago, the Dachstein Massif was a hilly terrain full of streams. Over time, the water, full of carbon dioxide, ran deep into the earth, thus creating labyrinths and grottos. From the entrance, the first part of the cave to be reached is the stalactite hall, the cave's warmest section. Here the temperature remains at 3 degrees centigrade year-round. Stalactites in alpine caves are an unusual phenomenon, since they usually form in more moderate temperatures. The second leg of the tour is the so-called King Arthur's Cathedral. The erosive action of the water has created an enormous arch in the rock, similar to the arch in a church. The temperature hovers around 1 degree Celsius at the entrance to the frozen part of the cave and the Parsifal Cathedral. The process of ice formation depends on various factors. In spring, melted snow turns to water, which makes its way through inlets in the Earth's surface, down to the interior of the cave where it freezes, thus forming new ice each year. Part of this ice formation is melted by warm summer rains, though about 30,000 cubic meters of ice have remained. The ice mount is 8 meters high and is found on a floor measuring about 7 meters. The next step is the Graal Castle. Inside the ice, traces of pollen have been found which derived from a plant that no longer exists. The last stop on the visit is the Tristan Cathedral, an ice formation that at points reaches about 25 meters in thickness. A stairway leads to an awe-inspiring ice chapel. The erosive action of wind and water has created this cavity, among the world's most breathtaking natural sights. The exit offers a gorgeous view over the village of Hallstatt and its lake. The Hallstatt region is comprised of a multifaceted natural landscape, which includes both historic and cultural dimensions.